Hello, Internet Riding Buddies and other friends. Welcome back to the Internet Riding Buddies podcast featuring myself, Ben, also known as the Dork in the Road, and with me, as always, is the illustrious Grace.
Yes, Grace, aka the Graceful Renegade, reporting for duty, and we have a special guest for you today.
Yes, we're pleased. Well, okay. We're mostly pleased to welcome Dallas from Traction E-Rag. Dallas, you may remember from my Grisbait videos last year. He was the incredibly tall Canadian dude in front of me bushwhacking around the water hazard that we couldn't get our bikes through, and also wearing a tutu on the first day because, well, that's a fun story we could tell. But we'll get to the tutu in a minute. And Dallas is here for a couple reasons. One, because we're super excited to be co-hosting. Really, I'm not doing shit. I'm just showing up. Dallas is hosting, and I'm there. An event that is similar to the Grisbait event that I did last year, in that we're going to go to Canada and camp and ride and eat delicious food and hang out with cool people. But the difference is this year's event, it's called the Cross-Training Skills for ADV and Dual Sport Riders. And so there's a training component to it, and it's designed for people like me who are dual sport and adventure riders to have the opportunity to go and get some training and practice on a smaller bike, on an actual honest-to-God dirt bike, and build up your skills that then translate upward. And that's what we're going to talk about today: is the importance of training and the different ways you can get training and how it helps, and Dallas and his team's philosophy on training. But first, tell us about what I did not remember to mention about XTADV. Grace and I are both going, by the way. That's an exclusive piece of information that I don't think we've shared yet.
No one knows yet, but yes, I will be tagging on as Ben's sidekick as per usual.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to these conversations. I love to talk. I suspect Ben and Grace both love to talk too. So
yes, we do.
Yeah, we'll do our best to not tread on everybody. So Ben, what's your question? What are we doing at this event?
Yeah, what did I forget to mention? Like, give me your elevator speech on this event.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this one a lot because we've been doing rides and training for a long time, and what happens, or what's happened, is this rise of adventure, spurred on or started by Long Way Round way back in the day. Everyone's switching to off-road, but the manufacturers are trying to market and sell you a very profitable motorcycle. And I would say profitable motorcycles began at 500cc and up. So they've convinced the community that that's what you need to ride off-road, where we've spent all our time, from 125cc to, like, a big bike for us is 500cc's. So we know that off-road skills translate up. So a trials rider could hop on a BMW GSA 1200 and do miraculous things in the first 10 minutes. Whereas a BMW 1200 rider is going to get on a trials bike and it's going to throw him around like a washing machine. Like he's going to be on the ground very, very quickly. So
yeah.
This event sort of came out of that idea: is how can you possibly learn to ride off-road if you are dealing with the consequences of what's an adventure bike weigh? 650?
Not the ones I ride, but 500 anyway.
Yeah.
So 500. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're dealing with this really, really large motorcycle, the consequences of you falling off and crashing are very, very high, both physically, so your health is in jeopardy. As you know, if you've been around this sport for long enough, you've seen lots of injuries. And then the second one is if you're crashing your GSA 1200, it's going to hurt you in your wallet, equally. Like, it's going to be $1,500 worth of repairs every time you drop the damn thing. So we decided, because we're sponsored by Honda and we have a fleet of 250Fs, air-cooled 250Fs. So we thought it would be really smart if we took adventure riders and dual sport riders who has no small bike experience, throw them on these lightweight bikes with reduce the consequences of you getting hurt, because we drop those all the time and fall over and we're going slow speeds. It's not a big deal. And they're practically indestructible. Like you just bend back whatever needs to get
Yeah.
bent back and off you go.
Yeah.
So that's where this came from, is the rise of adventure bikes, the rise of off-road riding, and the interference of the industry with marketing that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worth mentioning that ADV segment is not only the fastest growing segment, but one of the only that is growing. And so you
Right.
see manufacturers really leaning into that because it's one of the only things that's still profitable.
Yeah. It's amazing how prevalent that industry still is. I mean, I feel like there's so many people that are just continually investing in those bikes and buying those bikes, and it just only is growing. I actually was looking at Revzilla's page earlier. They had a blog post they just put up about how motorcycles in general obviously just keep growing, but that ADV is obviously the biggest component of that. It's just kind of skyrocketing still, and it hasn't really plateaued since Long Way Round came out. And it's amazing to think of how it's evolved since then too. But I think one of the cool things you guys are doing is, and obviously I will be there as well, but like throwing people who are used to big bikes onto small bikes is such a crazy experience. Like I was riding ADV bikes before I ever got on a dirt bike. So I obviously fell in love with dirt biking as a result of that. But I do think it's a cool thing to get people to experience, because it, again, just like opens up another realm of how you can ride a bike and enjoy it.
So can you give us just a quick... so I'll put a link to this event in the description, and we're not going to spend the whole time talking about the event, but we do want to throw it out there because because I'll be there, and Grace will be there, and Dallas will be there, and we're going to have a great... It's actually at Dallas's house. So tell us what kind of riding we can expect, and just kind of what else is going on at this event besides riding and training.
So we're going to be glamping. So we're going to spend, the other component of this for me, which is exciting because we've never really done this, is we are going to be in the bush the entire time. We create these camps. One of them is lovingly called Tornado Alley, and it's sort of a ramshackle collection of things, sort of like a homeless shelter. But we're going to build one for the fall, and we're going to have a lot of fun because people keep saying to me, like, we love the experience of staying in Tornado Alley. It's outdoor showers. It's very rustic, but it's super authentic and it's super fun. So I'm excited about that portion of it. As far as the bikes, everyone's going to be on their 2023 brand new 250F. We love those bikes. They're air cooled. They're just bulletproof, as Ben knows. I mean, he's had time on them, and he purchased one. So that's how good they are. So we're going to train in the mornings while it's cool, and then we're going to ride in the afternoons, and we're going to take you guys into places that will absolutely change your perspective of what a hill is, both up and down.
That's horrifying.
What gnarly really looks like. So I feel like Ben's experience with us at Grisbait, most of it was a psychological change of just like, oh, because I heard you say, Ben, you said, oh man, it changes how I feel. What is rideable? And
Right.
that's what's going to happen. Your perspective is going to change, and I think that's a huge mental hurdle for people that are riding adventure bikes. Like, will my bike go through this? Will it go down this? Like, what's going to happen? But we're going to change that for you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that.
And worth mentioning that, one, the food is just fantastic. Like it's a vacation. Like it really is. It's like going to an all-inclusive resort, except not boring. And two, I think Dallas loves to oversell things, which is, his business. And you will grow and learn, but the way that you phrase that sounds mildly terrifying. So let me just clarify that just like we did at Grisbait, and we had a wide range of ability levels at Grisbait. The rides will be selected and leveled so that everyone in the group can have a good time at their own pace. And the thing about ADV riding that maybe you don't get, and we're really all enduro type riding, if you don't do it with other people a lot, is that what you can accomplish when you're in a group is magnified, right? Is amplified because you're helping each other. There's plenty of examples of that and footage of that in my Grisbait, just like jumping off and helping each other pick up your bikes, or just like at the bottom of a tricky hill climb when you get stuck, just being like, get your ass back on the seat, lean back, give it throttle and go.
Yeah.
Just that coaching and help and know that you don't have to do it all by yourself. You can do things you can't even imagine that you can do, and you will at an event like this. So if you're like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know if I'm good enough, you probably are.
Yeah. I mean, Dallas, do you want to touch on some of the benefits of being on a smaller bike and how that can cross back over to being on a bigger bike again?
Yeah, and I think I should clarify our philosophy and how we got into this in the first place. Is the enduro community has a bad reputation of enjoying the idea of taking someone with lesser skills and thrashing them within an inch of their lives. And I don't know why they do that. I mean, partially it's because they make them feel better about themselves, like, oh, I'm so good, and I'm going to thrash this person and show them how good I am. And I went
Yeah.
through that. When my trial by fire into this world was very much by old men who wanted to thrash the shit out of me, and they did. But I just didn't feel like it was a healthy, like, how are you going to grow this sport if you're going to thrash all the newbies and they can only stay if they prove to be tough enough to pass the test. So
Yeah.
although I went through it, I didn't like the philosophy. So we started training and teaching because I would like to grow the sport. Like, I think it's important that the more people we have in a sport, and that includes women and children and families, the more the credibility of the sport can be offered to society as something other than a sausage fest of old guys in the woods,
Yeah.
doing whatever they do there. So,
Yeah.
for the sport to be credible, I want to welcome more people in. And as you guys know, the barrier to entry to riding an off-road motorcycle is quite high. It's like, what bike, the gear, where do I go? Like, there's a million obstacles you need to overcome. And if someone's going to drop out of this sport, it's going to be in the first season or two if they don't have a good experience. So,
Yeah.
Ben saw what we do, and it's about giving a wide spectrum of skills a great experience at their level. So, the guys in the front are always fast and they're experienced and they're intimidating. But we make it very, very clear that everyone at the back is going to have just as much fun. It's just going to be relative. Like, you just because you're not going 80 miles an hour and shitting your pants the whole time, like, it doesn't mean you're not having a great time. And there's a lot, people feel that pressure. I felt that pressure. I go riding with a fast group and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be at the back. Everyone's going to be helping me. I'm going to feel like a piece of shit. They're going to be rolling their eyes and making me feel worse. And that's exactly what we don't want to happen on our ride. So we have a gentleman named Satan, who is at the back.
Is he going to be
Ben
there?
knows
Is Tim going to
Satan.
be there?
Oh, yeah. He'll be
Okay.
around. Yeah.
Now I'm excited. I was worried. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's what we call our sweep. So he's at the back, and he is, although he's named Satan for lots of good reasons, he's incredibly caring, and the guys at the back have more fun, or at least as much fun as the guys in the front. So that's a big part that's our philosophy of like how we like to do things. So you're right, Ben. Providing you have some off-road experience, you
Right.
will be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, this is not a great first step, maybe, into the world of off-road riding.
Yeah, Grisbait, like, for example, we had an application a couple days ago for someone with Grisbait, and he's got 1 year of off-road and 20 years of street experience. And I said, I don't think this is a good entry for you. This is not a place for you to cut your teeth for the first time off-road is at Grisbait. That's not a good idea. But this event, like the XT, the Cross Training Adventure event, is perfect. So right now, the people that are enrolled are all of similar fashion, which is they've been riding street. They know how to ride a motorcycle. They've been flirting with ADV. Their confidence is like, holy shit, like, how do I do this? This is way different. And they have a year or two of, where did Grace go?
She just disappeared. She's tired of listening to you. 14 minutes. The new record for you, bud.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm going to assume she'll pop back in.
Yeah, so anyway, the group that's attending the event are just all at that sweet spot of this is exactly the experience they need to sort of progress. So we're hoping they level up.
Nice. So before we dive into the training, and I want to, I think So I first became acquainted with your organization through the cross-training enduro skills videos that I was watching when I first started. Like I would binge watch them every day or all night before I would go trail ride the next day. And I know that's an association. It's not everything that you do, but can you talk a little bit about Traction ERAG and the background and how it's kind of transitioned into this event hosting organization?
Yep. So I am from a publishing background, so radio, newspapers, and magazines. That's my background professionally. And in 2008, I decided to start a digital off-road magazine. This is, really before the rise of social media and all that stuff. And we picked up a decent subscription list. And one of the people that contacted me during that time, he wrote me an email and said, "Hey man, I love the magazine and the attitude. I make videos." And often people send me that and they make videos and it's like home videos, but it was Barry Morris, the legendary Barry Morris from Cross Training Enduro and Cross Training Adventure. So I just, once I realized who it was, his channel was called The Secret Garden Project back then, before he was actually Cross Training Enduro. But I just wrote in all caps, "I fucking love you, man." And then that spring he came over to Canada and we spent like 6 summers together at that point, and we just he believes in education, he believes in the value of education, he loves off-road riding, and we just put this together in hopes that we could help other people overcome those obstacles, because man, they're pretty they can be insurmountable.
So are you still publishing? You're still publishing an ERAG, right?
I am not. No.
No,
In
not at all.
what happened was COVID, because all the revenue that ran the magazine was from us doing rides. So I hate shaking my tin cup and asking people to donate. So we offer these rides. They come along. They have this great experience, and that revenue funded the magazine and the media. But COVID happened, and all the borders got closed. So for 2.5 years, no go. We were shut down. So we shut down the magazine. It was exactly 10 years. And now we're doing some videos, and we have a pretty cool newsletter, I'll have to say. That's sort of an extension of what the ERAG used to be.
That's sort of what I was referring to, because I get to be blessed with your prose occasionally. And Dallas is a ridiculously good writer. Like, I mean, I'm not amazing, but I know enough to know when it's good. And Dallas's writing always brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, I would disagree with that. I have a lot of help in the background. I've got an amazing editor that helps me, and him and I write together. So I'm definitely not going to take credit for that.
Okay, so geez, I hate you've answered like 4 of my questions. So let's start with the biggest one, which is, and you sort of touched on it, but I think the thing I want this particular podcast episode to do is really help people understand the importance and the benefits of training, whether it's with you at this amazing event, which is fantastic and a once in a lifetime opportunity, but also expensive. And you can do cheaper local trainings. You can do a 2-day training for $500, and that is invaluable, having done it myself several times. So why, in your opinion or experience, really, because you probably have more experience with it than anyone, is off-road training important?
I think the best way for us to talk about that is to talk about you, because you're the most recent. Yeah, well, we can talk about you together.
Oh, okay.
You're the man who has had the most recent experience with us, and I was happy that you took the risk of jumping off and attending Grisbait, because it's an intimidating prospect. I think you'd agree. Did you feel intimidated when you?
Oh, yeah. I showed my dad the video. I was like, yeah, I'm going to Canada to do this Grisbait thing. And I showed him, which you guys have that video if it's like 14, 15 crashes in a row. And he's like, dude, he's like, are you going to survive? And I was like, I feel like this is probably just the lowlights and it's not that bad. But yeah, I was very intimidated.
Yeah. So like, I mean, your background, as I understand it, is adventure and dual sports. So you came from big bikes and then you slowly worked down.
I actually started on dual sports up to adventure
and
bikes.
Then you went up.
Yeah.
And then you came back down.
Well, because of you.
Right.
I've always had dual sports, but yeah.
Yeah, and we've come from the other direction. Like, we've come from small enduro bikes, and like we're peaking out at a 500cc bike. For us, that's like, are you sure you want to take that with you?
Mm-hmm.
So watching your experience, which is you're intimidated, you're nervous, you're coming into this event, I think we do a good job of like slowly preparing you and scaling it up. Like we did, that first day ride was relatively sane, civilized. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
one
it
where
was.
we went up to
Yeah.
the dildos.
It was pushing. It was brushing the edges of what I was comfortable with. Let's say that.
Right. But as we progress through the week, we slowly turn the dial up. And you know, not to clap ourselves on the back, but I've been involved in so many teams and watching teams and body language, watching fatigue levels. We're making decisions in real time, like where are we going to take these guys the next day? Like what can they stand given their experience? Because every group, no matter if there's a pro at the front and a noob at the bottom, every group has an average skill set or level, every single group. So I mean, we look at the group's average level, we look at the, you know, the guys with the least experience and say, are they going to be okay? Are they going to enjoy themselves? And then we run those days. So like watching your experience of coming in, you know, you went through it. Like I think you're the best one to speak about that.
Well, I mean, I knew it was going to be hard, but I told myself from the beginning that I wasn't going to let being intimidated stop me from doing things that people with more experience thought that I could do. And I think, and I've said this for a long time, that following someone better than you or riding with someone better than you, who isn't a dick about it, to your earlier point, and is willing to push you through things they know you can accomplish, but not push you through things that you can't for their own enjoyment. There's no better way to learn other than just like direct coaching and training, which this event will have both. But it's amazing. Just like I always say, confidence is the most important off-road riding skill, and there's nothing that makes you more confident than watching someone do something that you thought was impossible, and then you're like, oh well, that's doable, and then suddenly you do it, right? And I think you do a great job of that, and that's, I think, your coaching background, right? Of the real-time assessment. It's a thing we do in teaching too. Like you're constantly evaluating, where's the whole group out, what do the individuals need. You know, we call it differentiated instruction. It's kind of what you're doing. That's what Tim's doing in the back, right? He's helping and coaching, and like I got it on camera one time, him being like, just flick your heels out because you're hitting your kickstand as you go down this also, that also gets me pointing my toes, right? These are important skills, and just getting that in the moment. And then, so I guess to your point, yes.
Yeah, you touched on it earlier, like riding alone or riding with two people is one experience, but when you're riding with a group, there's a lot of energy inside of a group, and mentally you can surf that energy because you feel, I don't know, you're part of a team, whether you recognize that or not, and they're helping you along as you're helping them and you don't realize. And then of course you remember the first day, I don't know if you remember my speech, but it's basically the idea that we are a team and we're going to do some challenging things this week, and instead of riding by and saying hey and, you know, roosting the guy on the ground, you know, how about pull over and help him up and help his bike and make sure he's okay, because that's really going to be important to him if he's like really tapped out. And the other thing I say, and which is typically true, is at some point almost every man on that trip is going to be in the same situation. So, you know, we set up a culture of you know, kindness and compassion rather than you know, the typical male like roost him and let him die.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah. So I think that helps. And then the other thing is watching you progress, watching your confidence go
I'm
up
back. Can you guys hear me okay?
was crazy to me.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened. Apparently my
There she is.
my camera started having an argument with the actual
Oh,
yeah.
online software. It just kept
Yeah.
shutting off.
Stop talking about it.
So yeah, it was great. Anyway, I'm back. Sorry I missed out, but I'm here now. Aren't we always talking about Ben? I'm pretty sure that's the whole theme of this podcast.
We're talking about Ben.
Yeah. So good. Thank you for sharing.
Just joking. You know, I adore you.
God. I'm starting to think
I
you
wore this
actually
for
think
you.
that.
I know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. I love it. I love it. She's wearing a Princess
Yes.
Leia shirt, by the way, for those of you listening and not watching.
Yes. I believe my
Yeah,
previous
sorry.
question was just about
Grace,
the skills you can
why don't
learn
you
from
jump in
little
with a
bike, getting
question,
back
even
up
though
to
you
big
didn't hear
bike.
what we
Did we
just talked
cover
about?
that? Okay. Well, I guess what I would from my own point of view, obviously I do a little bit of both, but I'm more of a
Not
beginner
really.
Not
intermediate for
specifically,
both. And
no.
so I think maybe touching for people that are more at my level about the benefits of hopping on a smaller bike and then getting back on a big bike is really important and is probably something that will help their skill set immensely. Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you
Yeah,
say to someone that is like, I've never ridden a dirt bike, that's intimidating, and or what could that possibly teach me when I ride a 1200?
Yeah, the way we learned this lesson was through Barry Morris. So Barry has a trials background. So he was involved in trials for a period of time in his life, and he told me that in places like Australia and Great Britain,
Yeah.
they teach
Yeah.
trials like we would teach hockey in Canada. Like it's part of the culture growing up. Like trials is
Damn,
an accepted thing for kids.
I need to move.
And, like that's like imagine baseball and trials riding being equivalent in the US. Like it's, it's just unheard of in North America. So the reason they teach trials is considered the foundation of riding any motorcycle. So
Right.
when we learned the trials skills and saw how they translate so well up the food chain to the biggest bike you want, and we witnessed
Yeah.
trials champions just do amazing things on big bikes in 15 minutes, just like what is happening, it just hammered it home. So a lot of people, including myself, I did not know that at the
Right.
time. My mind was open 10 years ago to this idea that people ride motorcycles like we learned to play hockey as kids. And as an adult learner, most people will recognize that if you haven't done a sport or a hobby
No.
as a child, and then you try to pick something up as being an adult, it's like, man, you're never going to catch up to that person that learned it as a child. So trials is that foundation for everything that we do, and if you learn trial skills, you can do amazing
Yeah.
things on your
Yeah.
GSA 1200. And I keep using that motorcycle just because it's the
Right.
biggest
Yeah.
hog
Yeah.
pig thing I can think of.
Well, and
And
most
I love that
people
bike,
know
don't
what
get
it
me
is.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just at the other end of that spectrum. So you know so things like body position and balance, like we're going to do so much work on balance, and like how balance is such a subtle it's difficult to understand how precise your balance should be on your motorcycle. So yeah, we're going to break it down. So that's it's basically comes down to trial riders, those weirdos in onesies with open face helmets.
Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah,
a blast.
and for you guys, like people that are riding these big bikes, like an F250 is going to feel like a mountain bike.
It does. Well, and Grace she has an RX. Yeah.
It's such an excellent choice. Yeah.
So,
The other thing we see
sorry.
a lot is people get on the wrong dirt bike, and it really hampers their ability to progress. And in fact, what I would argue is that letting a friend or letting a salesperson sell you the wrong bike is probably going to end your time in the sport, because it's either going to scare you to shit. You're going to be like,
Keep
I
going,
am
yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
Like Grace, yeah, Grace is like, man, I'm out of here.
You scared her. You were like, whoa.
Yeah.
Wrong bike.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, wrong bike's going to scare the shit out of you, or you're going to just get super frustrated. Why can't you do this? So we've seen that a million times. Guys show up to the classes with a 450 motocross bike, and it's like, how much of experience you've had? Oh, this is my first season. Like, oh man, like just a matter of time.
Well, I made that point in my 300L versus 450L video, and it was just like, if you have to ask, the answer is the smaller bike because you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. And I saw it in action in Canada because a few people, you know, and no like disrespect to them because they don't know the difference, were like, well, I got to get the 250 RX. And after one day, they were like, just kidding. Do you have any Fs left? Because it's just a lot, like you said, if you don't ride that bike,
Yeah,
it's going to ride you. So, which brings me
yeah,
to a
it's
good
going to ride
question
you.
that I wanted to ask you. As someone with a lot of experience working with a wide range of riders and also an interest in a background in training, what dangerous misconceptions do new riders have? What do you have to untrain or help people unlearn?
I I think, I mean, there's a lot, but I think that people underestimate how badly injured they can
Yeah.
get on a dirt bike. And if you bring a reckless attitude to a dirt bike, it's going to end your career really quickly. So the other thing is, they think going fast is about going fast, but you guys have probably heard that old adage, you know, you need to slow down to speed up.
Right,
So on motorcycles,
smooth as fast.
it's counterintuitive. So you need to learn to ride slowly, so then you have the skill
Right.
set to ride fast
Yeah.
competently.
Yeah.
Because nothing's worse than getting hurt. Like, injuries are so
Ben and I both have had a
easy
couple of
to
friends break legs.
sustain.
Yeah.
Well, when you're older, they last forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
My ankle's still not
Yeah.
100% from
Yeah.
spraining it last year.
Getting
It was
old
stupid.
sucks.
Getting old is dumb. So what
Yeah.
in the
And
training, how do you address those and I know the answer, but I want you to say it. How do you address those misconceptions and help people unlearn and build the right fundamentals?
I'm not sure if I'm going to say what you expect me to say, but what we do here, after a lot of learning and running, you know, literally thousands of people through these programs, we control every aspect of what they do when they swing their leg over our motorcycles when they're with us. So guys want to see the log over there, and like, next thing you know, they're over away and they're going to try to go over this log, and then we're calling the ambulance because they broke their collarbone. And we just really keep the pot on the, or the lid on the pot, and we don't let that. And I'm going to use male here, but I know Grace is here.
Yeah, it is.
But it's male ego is a real
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew Grace would agree with that. It's and I don't know
Yeah.
how a female ego works because I'm not inside of a female's head, but I do know a male ego is, we've been buying into this manufacturer's marketing for a period of
Yeah.
time, and we have this fantasy in our head of what we're going to be. And then there's all these insecurities
Yeah.
around, what are the other men going to think of me? And we do stupid things like buy a 450 cc motocross bike because we think
Right.
that's the bike. We need the race bike because otherwise we're not men. And then when it's time to do the thing, you know, hold my beer and watch this, you know, the ego
Right.
is just going to take control and
Yeah, I
get us
think
injured very, very quickly.
I was just gonna say, I
And
think one
the
of the
bad
things
thing
that's
about
super
injuries.
interesting
Oh,
is
go
like
ahead,
from a
Grace,
female
please.
perspective. I obviously have girlfriends that love to send it and have a good time and hit it hard, but you never run into any of that element with most female riders, especially female riders that I mean, I have yet to meet one whose ego is as high as a lot of male egos when they first get into that stuff. Most of the women that I know that ride dirt and
Oh, that was so good.
Mid-sentence. Her connection's not great. And then
Yeah.
she yells at me when I'm like, your connection sucks. And she's like, you don't know, it could be. And then she disappears. It's like, I think it's your internet, but whatever. Anyway, I was gonna guess you were gonna say the fundamentals are the fundamentals, and it's a spiral, and you're practicing the same skills just at different levels. So it does, which is why a group of different skill levels can do the same training and all benefit, because it's all about balance and braking and all clutch control, all the things you're talking about. So that was my guess. I was off, but your answer was way smarter. from a liability
I
perspective.
would. I'll tell a story about. We spent time with a gentleman named Graham Jarvis, and the enduro crowd know who he is because he is basically the Michael Jordan, the Wayne Gretzky, the Joe Montana of off-road
Yeah,
enduro
he is.
bikes.
Agreed.
Hey, Grace,
Yes,
you
I'm
back?
back. Hopefully for a while. Oh,
He's
please. I
comparing you to
love
Graham
Graham. I'm a
Jarvis.
huge fan. Obviously, like you're
Yeah,
talking
we're gonna
about.
sort of touch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's
Yeah.
the best example. Like, he's arguably the GOAT,
Yeah.
the greatest of all time, and he's older. We were fortunate enough to spend I think 7 days with him filming a documentary. And what I noticed is that every morning Graham would go out and he would do figure eights. Every single time he started the bike, he'd do figure eights. And a lot of people feel like, oh, figure eights are like the kindergarten drill of motorcycling. It's like, okay, kids, get up and let's do some figure eights. But after I watched him do it for a few days, I said, hey man, why figure eights, and why you? Because you're the GOAT. Why are you doing this silly thing every morning? And man, his answer was just staggering. He's like, he felt figure eights were the best, the single most important drill of any motorcycle rider.
I've heard that.
And he said that he uses it to warm up his bike and warm up his body. And he said that if you can bring your figure eight to a level that most people don't even know exists, and until you know how to do that, you should never stop doing figure eights. And he knew he just like, I could spend a whole afternoon
Yeah.
breaking down figure eights and the importance and the skills that you're learning. And yeah,
That might be
that's just,
something I
I
need
don't
to
even
get
know
out and
how we got
practice
on that
every
topic.
morning. Yeah. I feel like that's such a
I need to
good
do that
skill.
too.
Yeah.
And I have no excuse.
We're going to spend so much time doing figure eights, and people might roll their eyes and be like, oh boy. But I'm telling you, once you understand, figure eights are very much like an onion. You can peel them down into these very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Just, it's so subtle, but it's so important. And improving your figure eights where you're super confident and you can do things inside your figure eight is going to just, it's going to change your confidence level, and it's going to change your throttle control, your clutch control, your static balance, body position, like on and on and
What
on
would
and
you
on.
what would you yeah, what would
Dallas,
you say
Boring, but good.
sorry.
if you have
Go
somebody
ahead,
that
Grace.
would love to do obviously this type of a weekend and they're feeling intimidated or kind of hesitant to commit because they just don't know if it's for them, what would be the best piece of advice you could give to somebody who's kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough, or I don't know if it's the right fit? Yeah. Yeah.
Or I don't know if I
Which I
need
think we
training
all
because I'm
can
so
agree
good.
sitting here. Everyone always needs more training. Yeah.
Doesn't hurt to get coaching.
And I feel like, in their defense,
Yeah.
sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And I've been in that situation many times in my life where you have no clue how deep that rabbit hole goes until you start to explore it and really look around. So most people don't understand how much motorcycle skill there is to be learned, and how much it will change your life inside that hobby that you love. And I think of skill training as very much like, if don't buy health insurance, just learn some skills on the motorcycle that is going to change, that's going to protect you from yourself. And so yeah, to address that more specifically, I would say what we try to do is we drop the intimidation level down. We're constantly telling people that we're not hardcore, because we're not. They think we are because they see us on video and we do ride lots of enduro and hard trail, but man, like there's a point to coming, which is making you more comfortable and confident in your motorcycle career.
So and
Oh,
mic
she
drop.
finished her
She's gone.
sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. She's like, bam,
Well,
take
so
that.
so we have, I don't know, 5-10 minutes left maybe. I want to talk about the tutu. I want,
Oh,
because I think it sums up, and I've struggled to define this sort of environment. I describe it, it's camaraderie. I've never been in the military, but it feels like it's that kind of like, we will give you no end of crap, but if you need help, we are there instantly to help you. And that's sort of the environment that you build, and people, I can kind of thrive in it because it's really this environment of support, but everyone just becomes very comfortable with each other. And I feel like the tutu sort of encapsulates that in a very interesting way. So can you talk about the tutu a little bit?
yeah, yeah. I often tell my guys, the most powerful thing you can be is yourself. Like, and everyone's gone through this where like they don't feel like themselves, but then when you're in an environment where you can actually relax and not feel threatened and be yourself, it feels so good and you feel so safe. And especially and you can't do that until everyone else is being themselves as well. So the group that, the ERAG gang, I encourage them to be themselves, which they absolutely are. And that allows everybody else to be themselves. And then everyone relaxes into this nice warm bath and we're all very supportive. But then there's the tutu. So the way the tutu works is when there's a group of cats, there's always the straggler.
Right.
Because I'm
Yeah.
herding the cats, and the stragglers and the outliers are sometimes difficult. So I always found that when I was reminded with humor, when someone barks at me using humor with a point, it makes me like listen or be open to listening to that idea. So, if you're doing something inside the group that you shouldn't be doing, the tutu is a very light, fun reminder, very sportsmanlike reminder of saying, hey, will you stop doing that? And, you get put up in front of the group and it's a big ceremony and it's lots of fun, but you learn
Okay.
and
So
are open to the idea you're doing something that you probably shouldn't
does
be
the
doing.
tutu get passed around?
And most of those things relate around stupidity. There's a whole culture. This thing started a long time ago, and there's a lot of rules. It's almost like playing a card game. So you can only get it once, because sometimes there's a real dummy in the group that deserves it every single day, but we
Yeah.
just don't want to pick on them. We don't want to make them feel bad because their IQ is in the basement. But you can only get it once. It gets passed around. What happens is people come to me very secretly and rat out their friends for doing dumb things that I haven't seen. And then in the morning, we have the tutu ceremony where we discuss what we witnessed yesterday, and everyone gets to argue their point. And the group will vote on who they felt has to wear the tutu. And you wear it, and it goes on for 24 hours. So you're wearing it, showering, and it's a pretty ratty piece of biological experiment.
It's seen some shit. Like Graham
Ooh.
Jarvis has worn it. Megs Brapp has worn it. Like I saw B-Rad, a video of him wearing it. So it's distinguished. And I think the best way to illustrate the soul of the tutu, and really the whole reason I asked you to explain
I was
that, was
just
so I
gonna
could
ask
tell
about
how
that.
Dallas earned the tutu on day one of the Grisbait trip.
I can't believe that happened on day one.
Yeah,
and I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah, what's funny is generally Dallas controls this situation. Like he will just spin a yarn that makes everyone vote for the person who he wants to wear the tutu, because he's just persuasive, and he's not afraid to abuse his authority as leader of the group and imply that other people's employment might be in jeopardy, or that he will it's a real kangaroo court, which is why it's so incredibly awesome when Dallas ends up with it anyway, because day one last year we went out riding, and I rode back with Jay and Dallas. Everyone else was in the van, and we load up the trailer, and we're pulling away in Dallas's truck, and they were swimming, and so it was a whole, like, that's why we were so far behind everyone else, and Dallas, like a mile maybe down the road, is like, that's 1.4 kilometers for you Canadians, or 1.2, I don't know. Anyway, is like oh shit, I lost my phone. I don't have my phone. I can't find my phone. And I think I left it on the ground back there. I think it's on the ground. And we were like, are you sure it's not in the truck somewhere? Are you sure that you... And he's like, no, it's definitely on the ground, definitely on the ground. And I'm just like, okay, well, it's still connected to the Bluetooth in the truck, so it can't be that far away. And he's like, no.
Talk to me about Bluetooth.
He's like, I definitely left it. We stopped the truck, open the trailer. He takes a bike out and rides it all the way back to where we were parked before, because that's easier than turning the truck around. And I'm like, Jay, call his phone. We were out of cell phone service, so we couldn't call it. But I was like, try to make a call from his phone in the truck, and because it's his truck, and it wouldn't go through because there was no service, but it did try. And so while Dallas is gone, even though, and I should point out, he's searched the whole cab, theoretically. He was sitting in the passenger seat. So I go back up to the passenger seat, and I'm like, it's got to be here. And I lift up, it's like a piece of paper or some kind of list.
It was under Jay's hat. It was under Jay's
cap. And I lift it up, and his phone is underneath it in the truck. So all of that, so that really the Tutu goes to the biggest dumbass of the day. And he tried so hard to get Jay to end up with it by making up some bullshit that didn't really happen. And Jay came in and just wiped the floor with him with his tail. And Dallas ended up with, and he had to go to like town to go to the hardware store and stuff wearing it. He wasn't riding with us that day. So that's the kind of thing that earns you the Tutu. I managed to avoid it by just keeping my head down and not saying shit. Jay got it one day for driving onto what he thought was solid ground, but it turned out to be a layer of like peat moss on top of water and like crashing into the pond.
That is an excellent illustration of how people end up with the Tutu.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
myself included.
And it's a good, and I think it's balanced interestingly. And it was neat to hear your philosophy behind it, because I suspected it was more than just like we like to make fun of people who do dumb things, but God, what was his name? The guy that smashed the radiators. He had 2 drops and he was struggling, and it wasn't really his fault, but it was good to like make light of it and help him understand that it's okay, and that's why we're here. And like, nobody's mad that these radiators are smashed to pieces and we had to repair it or replace them, because this is all part of the experience, right?
Yeah, I think it's safe to sum the Tutu up it's a celebration of failure.
Right, which creates an environment where failure is acceptable.
Yeah, because you can't learn to ride an off-road motorcycle with immense amounts of failure. And if failure's okay, suddenly it's okay to drop and crash and mess up and fall off your bike. And like if you don't have that, if you have a environment where that's not okay, no one's going to
failure is how you learn. We all know that.
So, God, that's so true. Grace, final
Let's
thoughts,
hope I
questions
don't
before you disappear again.
Good God. I know it's just because you don't like hearing my sass. I get it.
Right out.
I guess, Dallas, one of my big questions is, if somebody is new coming into this, what is maybe give us 3 things we'll be looking forward to being up there.
You're going to have an amazing life experience. I think that's the most important thing, because, why do we ride motorcycles? It's to enjoy our lives. The group of people that are in right now, I interview everyone because I want to make sure that it's a good fit for them. And they all sound amazing, and they're all like, eyes are wide and they're nervous. And so everyone's going to be in the same boat. Within 48 hours, you're all going to be one big happy family, and you're going to be friends probably for life. So yeah, the experience is going to be great. I think it will change your perspective. Ben knows this. Like I witnessed it with him. He came in thinking one thing and he left with a completely different perspective of what is capable and what he's capable of. So I think everyone's going to go through that. And then, we're going to go swimming in some cool remote lakes where no one ever goes. So that's going to be my afternoon thrill on good days, is we're going to go swimming somewhere. We're going to, our destination is going to be a lake somewhere.
You got to watch Dallas swim in skin-tight leggings with some dude's face on his crotch.
Yeah. The funny thing is that's probably true.
Yeah. Well, you can order those on your site. You're selling them, so you can get a sneak preview. Oh my God, I should order some and just like shock everyone by being dressed identical to you. Should all do it. So, Dallas, final thoughts, closing comment, anything? Good timing, Grace. Other than your thoughts on Grace's connection issues, what do you want to say to the people as we say goodbye?
Yeah, stop buying. You guys call it Farkle. We call it bling. It's fun to buy that stuff, but it's a much better investment to invest in yourself. Whether that's, if you don't have the motivation to go out and do the training and the practice yourself, hire someone, like go locally, attend a clinic. Like, I'd highly encourage it, because it's going to go a lot farther. Like that shiny thing is going to dull before your newly acquired skills are going to end or evaporate.
It's a good point. It's the best investment you can make is in yourself. You don't need crash bars if you crash less.
Oh, I have one last thing to say.
Okay, go.
And this only happens in the enduro world. When you get into enduro, it's quite, you crash a lot and it hurts, and it's so I find guys are wearing full armor on your bike, because you're gonna need it. But what I've witnessed is that as people progress in skills, and when you meet these top pros, they have no armor on their bike, and they have no arm, like they're not wearing anything except a jersey and pants and a pair of motocross boots. And I'm just like, man, like, what the hell? But it's like, you can actually become so good that you no longer need armor on your bike or your body, because you just do not hit the ground anymore.
Well, I don't think I'm
I
ever
will
going to get
either,
there,
but
but
thanks.
I'm glad
I
it
appreciate
exists.
that thought.
Thank
it's a
you,
good
Dallas.
dream to have.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for putting these events together. And honestly, I'm just beyond flattered and honored that not only would you ask me to participate and help promote this, but you put my face on it, which I don't know. I feel like that might be a marketing faux pas. We'll see. But you're a rock star. I'm excited to come back to Canada. I'm glad that Grace is going to be along, and I think we're going to make some great content and have a great time. So, Dallas, tell us, plug your socials, YouTube, what's the Instagram, whatever you got going that people need to know about and get it follow you and your adventures and your company.
Yep. TractionErag.com. Just type that into Google or whatever, and you'll find us for sure. And I'm looking forward. Thanks for having me on the podcast, and I look forward to the week we're going to have together. Awesome. It's going to be really special.
Yeah.
Agreed. Grace, where can they find you before you disappear
Graceful
again?
Renegade on Instagram and YouTube. Ben, where can they find you?
YouTube mostly Dork in the Road, but also Instagram at Dork in the Road. And if you Google Dork in the Road, you almost get exclusively me. So I guess if you're trying to find me for some reason, that's how you find me.
Don't forget to live wild, ride free.
And do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know what's